For my final, I decided to discuss something I'm very passionate about, mental illness and its effect on those around us. I would like to say thank you to Zach Tyson and Cora Lentz for being my subjects in this project and allowing me to discuss very personal issues with nothing but willingness. All of my pictures were inspired by interviews with the pair. While Zach struggles with anxiety, depression is a larger issue in his life. For the first section of my collection, we will focus on how his mental illness manifests in his life. Isolation brings comfort, Zach told me. To him, being alone is a way to control the chaos of the outside world around him. Away from everyone, the only problems he has to process are those within himself. And it's this time away that he's able to deal with the thoughts that, to many with depression, can be all-consuming. In this image, I aspired to capture that great sense of alone. I chose this location outside of his family home as I thought it reflected the world that most would consider to be a sense of comfort right behind him, but instead of seeking that, he chose solitude. His portion of the series are all in black and white, exhibiting how depression often makes the world feel destitute of all color and vibrance. With depression often comes disassociation. Better Health defines such as the mental process of disconnecting from one's thoughts, feelings, memories, or sense of identity. This definition is needed to understand that this image was inspired from a comment from the subject. A lot of the time, it feels like I'm kind of translucent and made of glass. I'm there, but not physically, and so I spend a lot of time in depths of those states, feeling like rather than being with people, I'm haunting them. I just feel ghostly. To those who have never experienced disassociation, I felt that Zach's description was one that was greatly put. In this image, I chose to do a long exposure effect to create the translucent look that he described feeling. When his episodes worsen, Zach turns to find great comfort in books, especially in characters. Zach presents the way that many of them do, strong and confident, and through years of practice, he has learned to remain that way despite the insecurities he may feel in the events of life that go on around him. And while he may not always feel that way, he does remember to show that vulnerability. It's also very important for people to see and understand that even the strongest of people you know are going through something, and it's important, especially to people who rely on the strong and confident people in their lives, to understand that they also have their own struggles, Zach told me. In this image, I tried to capture that safe space that he feels most comfortable in, his room. It is a place where he often finds comfort in pages and can remember to let down his own strength. My depression personally feels like that feeling of when you're hungry and there's an empty, gnawing sensation at the pit of your stomach, and the only thing that'll satisfy it is eating. But I feel that all of the time, all over my body, but without the hunger. Zach told me this, and his words were dark and heavy, and I tried to reflect on that within this image. With the light of the fridge showing his outline, the world around him is lost to darkness. I love the contrast and lighting of this image, and I think that when paired with a statement, it gives a powerful example of living with mental illness. For the second section of my final, I decided to photograph Cora Lentz, Zach's girlfriend who struggles with anxiety. Just as I did with her partner, I chose to base Cora's images off of conversations with her. I try my best to take time for myself and do things that I like, but I don't have a lot of time to do that sometimes, she said. As a full-time graduate student and a part-time barista, when anxieties worsen, Cora struggles to find energy to take care of herself. Largely, this manifests in her physical appearance. While normally she enjoys doing her makeup, that is one thing that gets abandoned. In this picture, I tried to show the disorganized state that her anxiety leads her to fall into with her room and her bathroom, for instance, as seen in this picture, while also showing how the smallest tasks of self-care take a large amount of effort. In contrast to Zach's images that are all shot in black and white, With Cora's, I strove for each picture to be sharp and contrasting, giving a slight visible representation of the sensory overload that can be accompanied with anxiety. Cora has often proclaimed to hate cleaning, so when her anxiety is worsened, she can often find her space well past disorganized. All I do every day is school and homework, and I hate it. And so when I have free time, I just want it to myself so I can do something that I enjoy, she told me. So, while to some, cleaning would feel like an act of organization, to her it's an added level of stress. By the time she feels up to completing the task, often the prospect is too daunting, creating a cycle of worsened anxiety. In this image, Cora can be seen doing her occupational therapy homework, while her room is in a slight disarray, but her only focus is on the work ahead, the fixation of her anxiety. My anxiety feels like someone has tied a belt around my chest, and as I get more anxious, it tightens another loophole, she told me. It can only be described as a suffocating and trapping feeling. In this image, I chose to have her own hand being the one that tightens the loop, as it's her own anxiety that works so viciously against her. Since recently starting medication, Cora has felt that her anxiety has become more manageable. It's been one of the best decisions I've ever made for my own health, and it's really helped me. I'm definitely not perfect, and I think it could get even better, but it makes me feel really good to know that I'm on that road, said Cora. I chose to focus on her medication in this picture, making the contrast great to express the power such a small pill has over such an overwhelming chemical imbalance. And while the medication does help, there is nowhere she feels safer in the world than in the arms of her partner. In this image, I tried to show them as that, a grounding factor when the world around them gets to be too much. He is her safe space. While the two struggle with largely different issues that neither have easy solutions to, they have chosen for 4 years now to endure every mountain and valley at each other's sides. I feel like I can't always fully be there for her, and in the same way, sometimes she's so overwhelmed with other things in her life that she can't always fully be there for me, said Zach. I chose in this moment to capture that pool of different trials in their lives away from each other, and yet, through it all, the pair stay attached. For the final portion of my photos, I chose to capture the pair in a field surrounded by flowers and overwhelming life, the storm behind them a beautiful touch to the topic of internal storms. Cora told me that when she finally let go of the stigma that surrounds mental illness and just accepted that that is part of her and that there is something she could do about it, she instantly began getting better. While there were many factors in her life that led her to that decision, Zach was one of the largest. He constantly pushed her to seek happiness and to aspire to have something better for herself. And in this picture, I tried to show that as he holds her towards the light, towards him, away from the loudness of her own mind and instead towards something better. Through our relationship, we've kind of learned how to compromise, Zach told me. While they know how to remain strong for each other, they also have learned how to respect their own boundaries and advocate for not only their own needs, but for each other's. In this final picture, I really tried to express that and to share the peace that they find with each other, and that even with the world full of life around them, they are still looking at each other and holding on each other through all of it. I had a great time shooting with these two, and I'm incredibly grateful for their help. In this shoot, I really tried to illustrate the pain of mental illness and how it affects the lives of others, and I really hope that these pictures conveyed that to you today. Thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for listening.